was my teacher, my mentor, my champion, my confidant, my colleague, my friend, and until late August of last year, my pandemic buddy, as we held nearly daily text and telephone conversations throughout this difficult time period. One evening in early May of 2020, I received a text from Dick that read, "5 years ago tonight, you gave the speech of a lifetime." Touched, I immediately picked up the phone, called him, and we reminisced about his retirement party and how there were more students than adults present at it, just as he had wanted. We chatted too about the state of the world, the uncertainty of everything vis-a-vis the virus, and about how he was still waiting for me to check his latest pandemic vocabulary that he created in Spanish to sell on his favorite money-making website, Teachers Pay Teachers. In his words, because you know, Sue, people are going to need these and they'll buy them. They always do. Soon after this conversation, I sent him the speeches that I had recently prepared for our senior French and Spanish award recipients, as I was in the habit of doing over the years, knowing he always enjoyed hearing about our Ipswich High School students and their various successes. He read these and sent me back this message: "These are nice, but I like mine the best." So I feel it highly appropriate to share again my words tonight that I delivered back in May of 2015, certain that it would please Dick, but also because I think many of you will recognize pieces of your relationship with him mirrored in our history and in the following words. It was 1984, and my classmates and I had a new French teacher. He was younger, taller, and although less vociferous than our former longtime instructor, he was nonetheless somewhat more foreboding. Soft-spoken yet assured, he went about teaching us French and Latin in an organized, deliberate, and measured fashion. He seemed nice enough and appeared to know his stuff, hence we were willing to give him a chance. As each new lesson unfolded before us, we quickly started to realize that this person leading our instruction was different from our other teachers. We noticed a unique approach to the learning process in general, and in his teaching specifically, which was not only very creative, but also highly personalized. What's up with this guy, we wondered. He uses our names in sample grammar sentences, in fictitious stories or reworked plays, and in questions on tests. It's like he already knows us and is really interested in us. That's pretty cool, or even chouette, we thought. And so began a more than 3-decade-long odyssey with the most intelligent, cultured, learned, astute, clever, witty, creative, inventive, talented, and amazing educator I have ever met. As a senior in high school, I was fortunate enough to be in then Mr. Ladd's class twice each day learning languages. French met after lunch in a small room behind the language lab that also served as the foreign language teacher's office. We were a small group, just 6 students, the names of whom he could still recount when this was written. Unbelievable, yes, but while preparing this piece, I queried him, knowing full well that he would have this bit of trivial, ancient information at the ready. Moreover, as he was envisioning us all in his head at our assigned spots and naming us off one by one, he could also recall tangential tidbits about us, our other classmates, or our families, that only his incredible steel trap of a mind would remember. Amazing, no? I recall he would make us coffee to enjoy during our afternoon lessons, which always included some interesting content and unique strategy, crafted especially for us. Even when we did less than interesting grammar lessons dans le vent, we were thoroughly engaged. The coffee likely helped, but I think this was more due to the genuine interest he always showed in us and in our learning. Earlier each day, I had Latin, which was a combined grouping of Latin 1 and Latin 2 students. We sat in rows, which Dick would never have tolerated beyond the 80s, the first-year students on one side and we, the second-year scholars of the classics, on the other. One of my brazen and quick-witted classmates nicknamed our double-duty Latin magister Mr. Plaid, due to his propensity for wearing shirts with said pattern. We, of course, all thought this was hilarious, Dick a bit less so, but he took the jest in stride. In these early years of differentiated instruction, Dick would work with one group while the other would diligently set about translating stories about the ancient Roman farmers laboring in their fields ad infinitum, it seemed. Unfortunately, both groups' work was frequently interrupted by a younger and less mature version of me who would periodically shout out, "George, don't touch me!" Seemingly unperturbed at this annoyance, Dick would, of course, reprimand the guilty party, and then, because he would never miss a prime opportunity to use language effectively and in an authentic context, he gently said, "Suzanne, tu peux le dire en français, n'est-ce pas?" Hence the squeal, "Georges, ne me touche pas!" could be heard resonating throughout our Latin classroom on a per diem basis. Classes with dual enrollment such as this Latin of yesteryear were still very much the norm for Dick, who more than often not had a teaching schedule comprised of at least 2 levels or more meeting in a singular block. Having no choice even way back then, he readily embraced this reality and focused on facilitating learning with his multifarious student populations. Avant-garde, certainly, and always miles ahead of the curve, Dick had an amazing knack for seamlessly orchestrating several learning activities which were thoughtfully designed for diverse learners so that anyone in his classroom could achieve their highest potential. He always found the divergent routes necessary for all students to learn and flourish, and did so with aplomb. Dick was undeniably a master at differentiating instruction and had been for so many years, long before this trend of best practice became in vogue. As most of you with us tonight know, at any given time, if you were to walk into Dr. Ladd's room, you would readily witness any number of very distinct and captivating learning experiences taking place. With a plethora of methodologies ready in his arsenal, Dick was never at a loss when it came to intriguing instructional strategies and ideas. In fact, over the years, I had strongly encouraged other colleagues to consult Dick about how to present any given topic, assuring them that within minutes he would provide them with a handful of equally creative and sound suggestions to help them teach whatever the topic might be. In this way, Dick's inventiveness was quite inspiring to both students and teachers alike. Without a doubt, he had an amazing gift, and he worked his genius every day for the primary purpose of supporting both teaching and learning for young and old alike. Those of you who have had the good fortune of being a learner in his room can attest firsthand to the countless methods and modalities he infused into every lesson. Class periods would be chock full of an impressive array of activities aimed at getting students to use the language in authentic, realistic, useful, and meaningful ways. He was constantly designing, formulating innumerable, plausible situations that prompted students to react, thus using the target language continuously and in so many rich scenarios. He expertly melded fun and meaning in the classroom, and students profited so much from his efforts, ultimately realizing that they could indeed communicate with competence in both spoken and written formats. This, however, was not his only goal. Yes, Dick got kids to learn language, but he taught them so much more along the way. Life lessons, solid habits of mind, currently known as SHAM in the Ipswich School District, sound strategies, sage advice, and worldly views were also woven into students' diurnal experiences in his classroom. Moreover, I cannot count the number of occasions when I spied a student lingering after class or stopping by during the day in search of this type of support that is so critical, yet at times lacking in many adolescents' lives. Dick was always there to lend an ear, and, listening intently, he might propose an idea, offer a plausible solution, or celebrate a success that a youngster had shared with him. Assuredly, there was often a line at his desk with students seeking from him such assistance, affirmation, and generosity of mind and spirit. Through all of his efforts, he shaped, encouraged, supported, molded, and inspired a multitude of minds, ultimately attributing to the success of many throughout the years. If anyone who has been under his tutelage dug deeply enough, they would uncover the seeds Dick planted at the roots, and many have him largely in part to thank for the people they have become today. He has indeed profoundly touched and influenced so many over his 41-year career, or XLI for you Roman numeral fans, perhaps as many as 5,000 Ipswich alumni alone, some of whom are here tonight, but all of whom would want to fet him accordingly. In fact, at the time of his retirement, Dick was receiving kind notes, invitations to visit far-off parts of the world, and other well wishes from former students, which over the years had also been quite commonplace. Even my jocular peer who bestowed upon him the title Mr. Plaid once chased him out of the Henrich house, utensils in hand and meal half eaten, just to say hello, not wanting to miss an opportunity to touch base and reconnect with him again. It is my sincere hope that such instances made Dick utterly cognizant of just how much he had affected myriad young lives in his impressive tenure as an educator. I likely speak for others in saying that I'm humbled by his profound knowledge, grateful for his unwavering friendship, and indebted to him for his sage guidance. Dick taught me French and Latin very long ago, but he continued to teach me so much more since. He wove an important fabric among us all in his time at Ipswich High School, and his formidable contributions have had an indelible and lasting effect on us all. Upon retirement, Dick continued teaching Spanish for 2 years at a small parochial school near his home in Lynn. After this, he became an adjunct professor at Gordon College, working with students interested in going into the field of teaching. In the last year of his life, he returned to Ipswich High as both a short and long-term substitute teacher in our World Languages department, as well as an instructional coach for 2 of our French teachers. He was very pleased and proud to come back to this institution that was so dear to him, and many of you likely saw his back in the saddle picture that he posted on Facebook the first morning he reported for duty in mid-November of 2019. Although we were all extremely grateful to have Dick back with us at IHS, in retrospect, I now realize that this was actually a wonderful gift that we were able to give him, in that it brought him enormous joy and contentment in what would unfortunately be the last year of his life. The virtual music selections we have chosen to include for tonight's performance were created during the early months of our school closure. During those many conversations Dick and I had back then, I remember him asking me if I had seen this or that post of these various performances. "These kids are incredible," he said, just as he had thousands of times before, as he was always so taken with and astounded by our students' talents. We play these then with this in mind, and as you listen and see the various faces, know that even in his late years, Dick knew many of these promising youngsters from the last joyful days spent here at IHS. We invite you to enjoy this instrumental piece, Climb Every Mountain, performed by our IHS Symphony Orchestra and directed by Michael Coelho. I'd like to now invite Sean Hill, nephew, one of Dick's nephews, to the podium, please. Okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Christine already said, my name is Sean Hill, and I'm proud to say that I was a nephew of Dr. Ladd. I'm going to keep it short and brief because that's probably how he would have wanted it. He's probably looking down on us right now saying, "Why are you here for me?" He was humble. That's putting it mildly. I can remember all the stories he used to say about every student that he ever had, every teacher that he ever interacted with, and there was not one bad story to be told. He was proud of his tenure here and beyond. He loved being a teacher. Although as a kid, I didn't really have the, what do you call it? I couldn't get all the answers off of my tests just because my uncle was a teacher. I didn't have an easy pass. He wouldn't give me the answers. He would have to tell me what, he would have to show me how to find the answers. And that's really all I have. Sorry, I can't think of anything else. But thank you all for being a part of his life, because he treasured every moment that he had whenever he interacted with anybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. We now have a video recording of Justin Bergner, who was one of the people who helped organize this event this evening. Just a mild disclaimer, there is a bit of slightly inappropriate language uttered at one point. It's referring to a specific event that's specific to something between Justin and Dick, and we decided that the message overall was worth you all hearing. So please, just a little disclaimer. Thank you.
Scott Ladd's high school students from 2011 to 2015. A few years back over dinner one night, my freshman year of college, he said to me, "We gotta figure out the Dr. Ladd thing." I was a little confused, so I asked him what he meant. "I don't want you to call me Dr. Ladd or Richard or Dick or DL or anything else," he said. I said, "Okay, well, I really don't know what else to call you." "How about Scott?" he said. "My middle name. My mother called me that." "Sure, that's fine with me," I said. And since then, that's what I've called him. And at his request before his passing, I've tried to avoid using any other names in this short remembrance. But before I knew him as Scott, all the way back in middle school, this French teacher had been something of a legend passed down to us lowly 6th, 7th, and 8th graders by our older siblings and friends. Who was this man who had his students hit the lady in the face, whatever that was, or pulled images for his worksheets off uglypeople.com? For a while, I actually recall believing that Mr. Seeley was Scott because I had never actually seen the man. I hadn't seen him until the first period of my first day of freshman year. We sat in the classroom apprehensively awaiting his entrance, and in due time a tall, large man slowly and silently walked in. About halfway to his desk, he stopped and raised his hands in a Frankenstein-esque motion and roared. At that moment, we all realized we were in for a wild ride and were immediately engaged. He was a master at engaging his students, getting them to buy in on the learning process. The French class was a place where part of the learning was being yourself, because the teacher shared with his students his full, authentic personality. By doing so, he invited each of us to bring our whole heart and mind into speaking, writing, and reading French. And not only doing this, but also developing our friendships, goals, and personalities to their full potential. He was, in this exercise, both a practitioner and guide. Because of this welcoming and safe environment, many of us felt able to talk about anything with him, and he in turn felt able to talk about anything with us. This quality was that which caused the turning point in my relationship with Scott. My senior year, the administration incorrectly deemed that I was a self-driven and responsible 17-year-old. The result of this misconception was that I was able to replace my third period with a self-directed online class. But instead of exploring the nuances of American government, I found myself spending the majorities of my third period with my favorite teacher. We would talk about books, French, and life over cups of Starbucks French roast Keurig coffee. Scott knew me. He knew me at my worst and my best. But one thing he knew about me for sure was that I was a Christian, or at least came from a Christian family. So we would talk about religion, about the Bible, or any number of related topics, because that was just the kind of thing you did with him. After several of these conversations, he one day asked me, "But what does it really do for you?" Meaning my faith. I hadn't actually thought deeply about this question in quite some time, which should give you a sense of where I was at. But I thought up something and said, "I guess it gives me a sense of peace, somewhere I can go when I'm having a bad day." For various reasons, that day was a particularly bad day for Scott, and so he asked me to put together some verses for days like that one, for days that are shitty. So by the end of that third period, I had typed up and given to him a collection of verses, which we decided to call Verses for Shitty Days. That day was the beginning of a new life for myself, but more importantly, it was the beginning of a new life for Scott. You see, Scott had never stopped learning despite really reaching the pinnacle of teaching expertise in his primary field of French. He held a master's degree from the top language school in the country, Middlebury College, and a doctorate in foreign languages from SUNY Stony Brook. But his passion for learning was nowhere more evident than in his devotion to studying Scripture. The study Bible he bought a few months after I gave him those verses, about 6 years ago, now today looks like the Bible of someone who has been carefully reading it for several decades. As I left home as quickly as I could after senior year of high school, and also left many of the values I had learned growing up, it was Scott that continually drew me back to my faith because he himself would not let it go. He would constantly ask me questions about it or ask for what he should be reading when I really wasn't thinking about any of that. He did this because he knew he had found a treasure that was more valuable than anything he had yet achieved, even when I myself lacked that insight. But he also knew how to guide his students towards finding and achieving those treasures in life that make us into our true, authentic selves. He refused to let those he cared for settle for anything less. He knew me better than most people knew me because he saw me in just about every environment. In school, both in and out of the classroom, with my family, over Thanksgiving dessert or Easter dinner, in church on Christmas. He knew me at my worst and at my best. And because he knew me in this way, he never relented in making sure I was living and acting as the person he knew I truly was deep down. His belief in the ability of his students to live up to their full potential, his belief in me, is a gift that few others in this world have given me. So if there is anything that I think he would want any of you sitting here today to know, it is that you are loved by God. There are verses for shitty days that were written just for you on your worst days, and that he is thinking and praying for you up with the saints in heaven. I would especially like to thank Jimmy and Connor for working with me to share these thoughts from too far away, and thank you all for coming to honor the legacy of such a great man. Thank you.
And now if Dane Tolstrip is here, there he is, class of 2014, here to share some thoughts.
Hi, everybody. There's a lot of you, more than I thought. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet as well. Dr. Ladd's class was probably my favorite class, but him and I didn't start connecting on a close basis until a few years after I graduated. I reached out to him, and we decided we were going to go to El Tapatio for some margaritas. And I sat down, gave him a hug, and said, "Dr. Ladd, it's so nice to see you." And he said, "None of that. We won't be having any of that. You're going to call me Dick." And so from then on, he was Dick, and that turned into one Wednesday a month for a couple years. Him and I would go to El Tapatio. We'd have food, we'd have margaritas, we'd talk politics and world events, and we started to develop more of a close relationship. And that turned into home visits and me mowing his lawn, doing his landscaping, more conversations about politics and world events, and every time we met, he would always tell the same story because it really stuck out to him, and so I figured that it had to be shared with everyone else. And this was junior year. I was his designated gopher. I would go to the office, I'd go here, I'd go there, and more importantly, I would go down to the faculty break room and I would get him a Coca-Cola. And he would always give me enough money for two, and he would say, "One's for me, one's for you." And that wasn't necessarily allowed, but it was our little secret, and I would enjoy a Coca-Cola as I learned French. And one day he called me up to his desk, as he always would. He said, "You," and he beckoned me over, and he said, "Mr. Dalton is auditing the class today. He's doing a teacher review, and so I want you to go down, and I want you to get 2 Cokes, and I want you to open it and start drinking it. And when he walks in, I'm going to confiscate it." And after he leaves, I will put it in my mini fridge, and you can have it after he leaves. And so the plan worked. It went off without a hitch, and the next day, he calls me up to his desk, and he said, "I just want to let you know, I got my teacher review back, and Mr. Dalton was very impressed that I took your Coca-Cola from you." And every time I saw him after I graduated, he always went back to that story, and I know it brought him a lot of joy, so I just wanted to pass that on with everyone, and that'll do it for me. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Dane. A lot of mischief, the two of you, for sure, and others, I imagine. If James Hill Jr., also Dick's nephew, could come to the podium, please.
How you guys all doing tonight? My name is James Hill, and I'm Richard Ladd's nephew. I was caught off guard about speaking tonight, and I didn't know anything about it, so I'm going to make it short. I really don't know what to say. Let me start by thanking everybody here tonight, as well as the people watching everything on YouTube. My uncle was awesome uncle, son, brother, teacher, and friend, anybody he met in his path. I could say he's a man of very few words, but I would be lying to you, because you all know that he always had something to say. He loved Ipswich High School, especially his students. He often spoke about his posse. I always wanted to meet them when I was younger. I've met Justin Bergner before, but the other members of the posse, sadly, I had to meet at a funeral. Again, thank you all for coming tonight. I want to offer a $1,000 scholarship in his name to a student at Ipswich High School for this year. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you, James. We have a last-minute addition to our program. We received a video last evening from class of 2007 graduate Maya Wax Cavallaro. And she wanted to share this all the way from California.
Greetings from Santa Cruz, California. I'm Maya Wax Cavallaro, Ipswich High School class of 2007. And I just wanted to send some love to Dr. Ladd's family and to the Ipswich High School community and everyone back home whose lives Dr. Ladd touched. He had a really profound impact on my life, and I don't know if he knew that. I hope he did. But I did not love Spanish when I started high school, and Dr. Ladd made me love Spanish and love studying languages, and that's ended up becoming my career. I lived in Guatemala for a time. I worked on Spanish TV. I got a master's degree in linguistics and did linguistics at Google for 2 years, and now I'm working on my PhD here in Santa Cruz, and I think about Dr. Ladd all the time. And I'm so grateful for him.
So we wanted to also offer for anyone here in person an invitation to speak in a more impromptu fashion. If anyone wanted to do that or wishes to do that, please feel free to come forward. We'd be happy to hear your thoughts.
Hi, my name is Phil Freehan. I don't know Dick. I don't know Dr. Ladd. I only know Scott. Scott and I grew up together. We were the oldest of cousins. And as I walked up here, I thought, and I heard all the wonderful things that people said. We always learned at Lynn English High School, there's the speech you prepare, the speech you give, and the speech that you wish you said afterwards. The good news is there's no speech. What I will tell you is that growing up with a cousin like Scott was a wonderful thing. Not only did I love him, everyone in the family loved him. If we had an event and Scott was going to be there, the room would light up with excitement. My earliest memory of him, fortunately or unfortunately, is we used to get to be dragged on excursions by our grandfather Grank. And one time he took us fishing at Sluice Pond on a little raft. I was maybe 6, Scott was maybe 5. After we both fell into the water, the fishing trip was over. No more fishing for Scott. When our grandfather offered to teach us how to work a table saw, we both passed. I will say that there's a number of things that are very, very special about Scott. And as some of you have mentioned, anytime we talked to him or we met with him, his light would just beam when he talked about the students at Ipswich High and what Ipswich High School meant to him. The last time we were together was at Santapio's in 2019. He had lost some weight. He was full of vim and vigor, and it seemed like once again the world was going to continue to be his oyster, and unfortunately it wasn't. Not having Scott around means a few personal things. No more will I make a telephone call and hear him say, "This is Mr. Hunkadunk, what would you like?" He also, and Sean and Jimmy can relate to this, when Scott passed, that meant we lost the Phantom. He was the best Phantom a family ever had. Scott, Jimmy, I would say Jimmy and Sean that Scott would be so proud of you. He loved you both immensely as he loved the students. God bless the students in Ipswich High. You treated him well and he loved you so.
Hello, my name is Angus. I was in his class from 2011 to 2015, just like Justin on the video. I know it might not seem amazing, but to anybody who's seen me in the past few months, the fact that I walked up here is amazing, because I've been on crutches for the past few months. And actually, the last time I spoke with Dr. Ladd, he was asking about how the cookies were for the surgery. Unfortunately, it had been delayed. but he had sent me cookies 9 months ahead of a surgery that I was having. And, you know, a lot of stuff that Justin said rang true to me. Like, my sister had him before me, and I heard stories about how crazy he was and how great he was, and I was really excited to have my first day, first period, first class be with Dr. Ladd. And throughout those 4 years, that continued. There's a lot of stories I was thinking of while standing up here at the time. He and my mom conspired to embarrass me on my birthday. Sorry, there's a lot of stuff that I don't want to get into, but every single day I look forward to going there. And I was very happy that he decided to stay as long as he did. You know, no offense to any other French teachers at Ipswich. None. But he really made it special, to be honest. Despite how much I loved it, I sometimes didn't think that he thought I was the best student. You know, he expected a lot, and sometimes I worried I wasn't living up to what he thought I could do. And after high school, I didn't talk to him for a while. The first time I actually spoke with him, or actually texted him, was a few years after I was in Iraq. And at the time, I wasn't lying, but I just didn't tell my mom I was in Iraq. I was in the military, and I was there for temporarily assigned. But I told him because I was so excited that I'd been able to use the French that he taught me to treat a French soldier. And I was very excited to tell him. He was very happy to hear it. And after that, we were able to, you know, start having lunches at El Tapatito, because that, I think, was his favorite restaurant. I think it's the irony, we'd do a lot there. Talk about everything, nothing, different ideas for poetry, what he was working on. Make fun of the older woman group that were working on their Spanish at the restaurant. But it was really great. And during the time I was there, one of the things that we talked about was what I was going to do. And at the time I was in nursing school, and I currently am a nurse. But he said, you know, why aren't you trying to be a doctor? And when I had talked about this type of thing, that was my plan, I would do one. But when I spoke to people, they said, oh, you know, it's really hard. I don't know if, do you have the grades for that? But Dr. Ladd, he just asked me, unprompted, just like, why aren't you living up to your potential? I know you can be. And that really, not solely, but that changed the course of what I wanted to do with my life, because I knew that he believed in me as something I could do. And it's not something I'm there yet, but I am currently working towards the end of medical school. And I just want to thank him for believing in me. Yeah, I don't know how to end it because it's kind of impromptu, but he's definitely the teacher who's affected me more than any other. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name's Alyssa Hill. I'm Richard's great niece, and I wasn't really expecting to come up tonight, but I decided to. I want to thank everyone for coming out here tonight to celebrate his life. I really greatly appreciate it. There's only a few things I want to bring up. One of them is I've been coming to my dad's every Friday since I was little for the weekends, and every Saturday he would come pick me up from dance, and we would go out to lunch at Monty's. And he would always ask me how school was, and I would say, it's fine. He asked me what I would do, and I said, we did nothing this week. He always convinced me to try to tell him what I did, and he always got something out of me. And then he would ask me how dance was, and I said, it's going good. And every time after lunch, we would always go back to his house, and he would convince me to try to show him my dance, and I'd always tell him, no, you have to wait till my recital. That was one of my favorite things we always did, and I really appreciated it. And then there was this one time we went to this place called Larry's for lunch. It was me, him, and my older brother Jason. And my mom came and picked up Jason, and he went to my mom's house, and we were on the way home. And it's like before I could read signs, and he told me next right is Hollywood. And so we took the next right, and I was freaking out, like really thinking we were going to Hollywood, but we weren't. I was in tears on the car ride home. I was calling my stepmom and my dad, saying that I didn't want to go and I wanted to come home. I really don't know how to end this, but that's what I want to say. I really do thank you all for coming out, and thank you for everything you guys did for him.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Ham. I'm a former science teacher from Ipswich High School, and I had the honor and pleasure of teaching with Dick for 15 years. As you can tell from what everyone had to say about Dick, he had a really special gift for making his students feel loved and accepted, but he had that same gift with his friends and peers. We would have lunch together every day, and Dick would always have a joke or a story. I would tell you a couple of them, but none of them were appropriate for this venue. But we would laugh. He knew everything about everything. And he would ask me to help him prepare lessons for his students by giving him facts about chemistry that related to French or Spanish so that he could help his students make connections between subjects that seemed to be completely unrelated. And I just always appreciated that he valued everyone, every subject, every topic, every kid, every person, every thought. It was all about thinking, knowing, and appreciating, and I will never forget Dick Ladd. Thank you.
Sorry for the wait, that took a while. Well, I was not expecting to speak, but man, and there's a lot of great things that have been shared. I don't know what more I can say really, other than just telling you a very quick story about how Dr. Ladd changed my life. I wasn't a very good student throughout 3-4 years of taking French. I liked his class a lot because it was just a fun place to be. You were never really pushed too hard. And he was such a good guy, and it was really, really fun to spend time there. So when it came time to graduate, I just elected to not do half of my final. I did the in-class portion, and he would give you a chance if you wanted to do an interpretive dance or something else. I just remember that being a thing, I don't know. So I didn't do the take-home portion. I didn't write my essay. And after graduating, my mom wanted to know why I had such a god-awful grade in French class. I loved that class. How could I have done so poorly? So without talking to me about it, she reached out to Dr. Ladd. And she came into my room later that night and was just bawling her eyes out. And he had talked to her and told her how wonderful I was. And it still resonates. The things that he said were so incredible to me, they truly changed my life. And I just wanted to thank him.
everyone. My name is Emma Freeman. I am from the class of 2015, as are many other people here. Of course, a lot has already been said about Dr. Ladd, and I don't want to be redundant, but ever since period one, day one, year one of high school, Dr. Ladd always made sure that we had a sense of community. And he even gifted us these wonderful t-shirts that I'm modeling for you now. From Bertie Bott's Every Flavored Beans, which you would always try to avoid the vomit and dog food flavored ones, to Helen Keller jokes, for which he later made financial reparations. He always had just such a magical classroom environment. And I had him all 4 years in high school, up through AP French, and he definitely didn't buy us breakfast at the Ipswich Inn every Friday morning, because that would certainly not be allowed. Of course, he did it anyway. And it was just such a different experience, and it's definitely something that I value looking back on my time here at Ipswich High School. And yeah, the first thing I did when I finally got to Paris, when I was studying abroad in college, was send him a picture of myself at the Arc de Triomphe. And yeah, he always made sure to wish me a happy birthday every year, and I'll never forget him. I don't have much more to say before I start crying. So I appreciate everyone being here, and in hopes of not embarrassing myself, I hope that the other class of 2015 members and other people who may know will join me now. We are farmers. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum. Thank you.
Hi, I promise I won't keep you here much longer. My name's Jenna. I graduated with Eric, who spoke a few minutes ago as well, and I just wanted to call him out for always having to suffer the wrath of coming in to Dr. Ladd's class after his class terrorized him for the morning. And we always had to check in with our friends to see what kind of mood that they put him in before we got in there. But usually we turned it right around. Sorry, Eric. Yeah, there's nothing much more I can add. When I hear about his legend and his legacy being passed on, it's not only through this high school and middle school, it's clearly all over the world. When I graduated high school, I went down to New Orleans with the skills that he gave me, and St. Petersburg, Florida might not be St. Petersburg, Russia, but people know about him down there too. And the first tattoo I ever got before I dropped out of college and learned how to tattoo was Jean Valjean's prison number. And I was still in high school when I got that, and I can't quite remember what he had to say about it, but I'm sure I asked his opinion. I loved school, and he nurtured that, and when I got far away from here and decided that that might not be the best path for me, I learned how to tattoo and work with animals, and I still thought of him every day because, as Ms. Ham had said as well, he just nurtured learning in all of its many, many forms. It's wonderful to be here and see some teachers that I had, Mrs. Killian, I had Mr. Ames, and to see Mr. Dolan's name up on the building is just, it's wonderful. But I'm so grateful, like many, many others, for what Dr. Ladd has given us, whether he was Richard, Doc, Dick, Scott, whomever. But thanks for letting us speak. Thank you, guys.
Hello, everyone. As you can tell by the ID I'm still wearing, I'm principal of the high school here, Jonathan Mitchell. I just wanted to say that Dr. Ladd bailed me out big time in Sioux, I guess. We had a hard time finding a French teacher, and he came in like a white knight on a horse and saved the French program once again. And I was so thrilled to have the opportunity to work with him because I'd heard what a legend he was. And so I had this expectation about what a great teacher he was, and he definitely met the expectation. Whenever I walked into the class, he just seemed so thrilled to be there, and the kids just seemed so engaged, and everyone was smiling, just such a positive culture. If I was having a bad day, I went into the class to go in and see what was going on in there because I knew it would cheer me up. So I know this has been a great tribute. Every teacher, as a former English teacher myself, this would be something I'd love to imagine someday my former students coming together and saying nice things about me. But as nice of a tribute this is, I think the students, you yourselves, are the best tribute that a teacher could ever have, because the reach of a teacher reaches through you guys to whatever you're doing all around the world. So I think that would be the most thrilling to Dr. Ladd, is to know just the positive impact and the small part that he had in shaping who you are as young people and how you've influenced the world. So thank you for coming, and thank you for appreciating such a great teacher.
Alrighty. I should have known. I tested this mic. All right. Hello, my name is Josh Colometta. I'm also from the class of 2015. I had the honor of having him in class for 2 years. He taught me French for 2 years, and he taught me a semester of Russian as well, which for me, that was my own small little trip to the Soviet Union, because all the textbooks were circa 1980. Just like everyone else has said before, it's very repetitive, but it holds very true. He changed my life 100%, and it's done nothing but good things for me. He improved my quality of life, and he made me a better person because he was in my life. I can remember the very first instance where I actually had a practical use of French, and it felt like the light bulb kind of clicked. I worked at the YMCA in Ipswich, and I was a swim instructor, and there were two kids I had that could not speak a lick of English. They were both Haitian, and I was able to help them with a lot of visual cues, mind you. I was not very good at French. To give them a little bit more instructions, I could actually do some practical swimming, and I remember seeing them years later at the same Y, able to swim, and felt that, all right, I did something. I helped start doing something a little good with my life, and now currently I'm a corrections officer, Billerica Jail and House of Correction, and I've been able to use my French to help with medical questions and other issues. I've never used French to yell, as my job entails, but because of him, I've been able to do a lot more with my life, and he's helped my family as well. He's helped my sister when she first was starting high school. She came into 6th grade. She was having panic attacks. She was very, very nervous, and I just invited her to come into his classroom with me, because I would always get there an hour, half an hour early, and I would just kind of sit with him. And he let her in with open arms and really kind of helped her come out of her shell. So I don't consider him a friend at all. I consider him a piece of my extended family. I have always loved that man and felt a very deep connection to him. Just wanted to thank him. And as I've done, I'm sure by myself, I just wanted to thank him again, because I know he's listening.
Any more customers out there? Okay. Thank you all for sharing. That was really nice. Oh, that's Deb. Thank you. Thank you, Deb. Yeah? Okay. Absolutely, always. Thank you, Barry. In Dick's memory, we plan to install a bench and plant a tree here on campus, perhaps a yew or other type of oak representative of France that will grow here in New England. We also hope to create a scholarship in his name and are working on the parameters and logistics involved in this endeavor. If at a future date you are inclined to donate to either of these memorial gestures, we would welcome your contributions. Once our plans are established, we will circulate the pertinent information through various community resources, postal or electronic mail service, and social media platforms accordingly. Immediately following this evening's ceremony, there are light refreshments available in the cafeteria. If possible, please join us there at the close of our final musical piece, You Will Be Found, performed by our IHS concert choir and directed by Abigail Frost. Thank you for joining us this evening, whether in person or from a remote setting. Good night.
Have you ever felt like nobody was there? Have you ever felt forgotten in the middle of nowhere? Have you ever felt like you could disappear? Like you could fall and no one would hear?
let that lonely feeling wash away. 'Cause maybe there's a reason to believe you'll be okay. 'Cause when you don't feel strong enough to stand, you can reach out your hand.
And oh, someone will come running, and I know they'll take you home. Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, and when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So when the sun comes streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. Lift your head and look around. You will be found. 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 There's a place where we don't have to feel unknown. And every time that you call out, you're a little less alone.
If you only say the word,
From across the silence, your voice is heard. Oh,
someone will come running
oh,
to take you home.
to take you home. Someone will come running to take you home. To take you home. Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. If you only look around, you will be found. You will be found. Out of the shadows, the morning is breaking, and all is new. All is new. Staring up the empty, and suddenly I see that all is new. All is new. You are not alone. 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 You are not. You are not alone. Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need someone to carry you, when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. 'Cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. If you only look around, you will be found. You will be found. You will be found. You will be found.
Dick would say those kids are incredible. And he's right. Thank you.